So this was a very interesting day, very unusual. I never worked on a construction site in my life, Well, I've been there as a trucker, right? But never as a laborer or actual employee. So I pre-packed yesterday. I got some supplies, some food, some snacks, and set my alarm for 5 o'clock this morning. 5:30 I was on the road, stopped at the gas station, got some coffee, and headed north and east towards this town of Drumheller, Alberta. So it's 125 clicks. So it took me probably 90 minutes. And I found the site because it's clearly marked on Google Maps. And I stop at the gate. The guy says, do you have your, I explained that, this is my first day. I'm with a temp agency or employment agency. He says, do you have your ID? And I said, no, not yet. Today is my first day. So he signed me in, just my name and time and, kind of like a stamp, because that's how they know how many hours you worked, right? And I asked him, where do I go? Where do people, where do I get instructions? Where's the office? And he says, well, that trailer is the lunchroom, that trailer is the office, but usually they don't want workers in there. He says, sit tight, there'll be an orientation, safety meeting outside of the trailer. Okay, so I go wait in the trailer, and I see some important looking guy, So I asked him, I said, how do I know what I'm doing today? And he says, who you with? I said, well, here's the name of my agency. He said, well, there'll be stretching. You'll see a circle of people stretching. Usually that's how they start the day. And then there'll be, just wait here outside, there'll be a safety meeting, specifically for you guys from this agency. And so I found that big circle stretching. So a guy comes out, I kid you not, a young guy comes out with a cigarette in his mouth, and we start stretching, and doing squats, but just, for relaxation basically. But the guy is smoking. And then I found other guys from my agency as well, and it's their first day as well. And we were I think there was 4 of us. One older guy, I think even older than me, he was an excavator operator. So I was a skid steer operator, right? I was signed up as a skid steer operator. Another young kid, 28, he was also a skid steer operator. And then another guy was there for a dozer, he can run anything, dozer, excavator, and so we were and it's chilly, it's maybe +8 Celsius, what is it, 10 degrees, so it's 50, less than 50 F, and I said, why are we standing here? So I think we stood there like idiots probably for 2 hours, and then finally a guy showed up. He says, you guys are from this agency? Yes. Okay, here's my name. He says, I'm gonna text you, give me your phone number and your name. That's funny, that's the first thing all supervisors ask us today is basically either send them a message with your name. Yeah, he says, okay, here's my phone number, just send me a message from your phone with your full name and your agency name and what kind of a job they hired you to do. And this way, I have his phone number, they have our phone numbers, right? And that's it. This guy disappeared. He says, after this, just they'll call you one by one into that office trailer and they'll give you your ID for this job site. And nobody asked any questions at this point. And so we waited one by one. So 4 people, we got our IDs. So cool. And it's actually scannable. So tomorrow when I'm coming back, the security guard will just scan that card, in and out. And that's how they know how many hours, I worked. And so once we had our IDs, we waited probably another hour and a half. And then finally we decided I said, guys, maybe let's go to the lunchroom, right? So we got our IDs. We got this guy, Jeremy, who's like our supervisor. And so we went to the lunchroom. We're sitting there probably 3 hours. I kid you not. I started eating all my supplies, It's like 10:30, 11:30. We're all sitting on our phones watching YouTube videos, And they're all very busy, doing something else. They don't have time for us. And then eventually a guy shows up and does the same trick with the phone. He says, here's my phone number, send me a text message. So we send him a text message. He brings us some. Oh, and then actually I forgot that the first thing in the morning, right in the lunchroom, there was a quick safety orientation. Some safety guy did, like usual stuff. That was like way before everything. And after that, we went and did stretching and met the Jeremy guy. But so this other guy, older guy, came in. So we exchanged phone numbers. And this guy was already kind of like in charge of the jobs, right? So he says, okay, so you guys where's my excavator guy? You, okay. Skid steer. I said, me. And the other guy also raises his hand. Okay. He says, can you run a dozer with a GPS? That other younger guy. And the guy says, yeah, I have experience. I can do GPS. Okay, perfect. He says, we need somebody on the dozer today with a GPS. And then we're shooting the breeze. The guy is very nice. Doesn't seem to be in a rush, And I asked him, I said, you guys have any other machines, that you'd be maybe willing to, let me get trained, or I can use other machines, Like I said, I'm certified on a wheel loader, and actually I said that's what I was trying to find. And the guy says, you can operate a wheel loader? I said, yes, sir. You have a wheel loader? He says, yeah, we have a big one, Cat 966. But we had an operator, but he got fired. I said, fired? I'm just curious. What did he get fired for? He says, drugs. They found him. He was doing coke, literally on the dash of the loader, and they found him inside. Not just somewhere outside, somewhere in the parking lot. No, he was right inside the loader, kind of like in his workplace, and he was doing coke. So they kick him out, and he says the wheel loader is sitting idle. So he says, but he looks at me and he says, but it's a joystick. He says, there's no steering wheel. Can you do that? I said, yeah, I can figure it out. I said, I operated loaders like that a few times, which is actually true. But I know they're tricky. They're tricky because it's very touchy, you have to be super gentle with that steering joystick, because otherwise you're going to be going like this, and, people will look at you and they'll know you're a rookie. And this guy says, okay, wait for this guy. He gives me another name. He says, okay, dozer guy, come with me. So he takes the dozer guy. Then maybe an hour later, he comes back. He says, okay, excavator guy, come with me. And what happens is that I thought it was some kind of an execution. I look in the window. No, he has one of those carts, like a golf cart they use on construction sites. So when he comes in, he grabs one of the guys and he takes them, like the dozer guy. He took him to the dozer and showed him what to do. Like there's no radios, nothing, But these supervisors, they always, watching you. They're driving around in these golf carts. Like when you're working, if something is wrong, they'll come over and tell you, right? And so I was the last, and then they took the skid steer guy, because they said, I'm going in a wheel loader. And I'm thinking, man, what did I get myself into? But honestly, I was a bit scared of the skid steer, because it's been a while since I operated those, but wheel loader, I don't care. Give me like 982, I can operate it, honestly, I love wheel loaders. And so then eventually another guy shows up, another supervisor. This one is already more interested in, he says, how much experience you have on the wheel loader? And I say, well, I just got certified, you know. Basically, I tried using big words, so I want to impress the guy, right? Show that I'm not a rookie, you know, because, you know, it's a big machine and it's expensive, right? They don't want you to kill somebody or fall in the ditch, right? And I said, he says, you have a operator ID? So I showed him I said, yeah. I said, I was trained on a Volvo and John Deere wheel loaders, and I got this. I said, I'm certified and I have safety tickets. And he says, oh, can I take a picture of this? So he took a picture of this, and so yeah, so that was the first and only time when they asked me for experience. And then another hour, so probably I think it was like 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock. Then finally, I think it was this guy, this last guy. He took me to the office, and we talked there with the big supervisor, like the guy who supervises the entire site. And he was not that old, maybe, I don't know, like 35 years old. And they kind of like, you know, because basically that's where they don't like workers in there. It's only for office people and you know, supervisors. But so they brought me in there and they said, okay, this is Sergei, so he wants to be on the wheel loader. What can we put him on? And they said, okay, you'll be moving, what they call them, stokes, pokes, you know, like that's what I was talking about in the previous video. Basically, it's like a pipe with a auger, I think, like drilling thing on the end, so that it can be drilled in like a screw, right? Like it's a regular pipe, but on the very end there's like a little, like a screw, right? So they can put it in the ground. And so the whole field was covered with these poles or pipes, and they're sitting in kind of like in a storage area there, and they're all bundled together, and they're pretty long, maybe, I don't know, 8 feet, 10 feet wide. And so this younger guy, the last guy, he took me to the loader. We did a pre-trip inspection. He jumped in the cab, you know, just showed me the controls. He's okay, does this, does this is your clamp. And so there was a fork, right? And so it's curl, but this thing, what I don't like is this cat that has a separate joystick for the bucket or the forks and the boom, right? So I really like the setup where you have one joystick for the bucket, for the boom, you know. So this one had 3. So the one closer to me was the bucket or forks. The second one was boom, up and down, and the last one was the attachment, like that knuckle, right? And at first, like, I couldn't understand, like, what are you gonna use it for? Like, why do you need that thing? And then when he took me, basically he says, follow me. And I'm thinking, oh boy, this is the first test. So I'm following the guy in this huge loader operating with one joystick, and I'm trying super hard to drive in a straight line, because, you know, with this thing, it wants to do this all the time, you know. Man, so that was like the first test. And I see he's looking at me, you know, like he's driving that golf cart, and he's watching me. He's watching me how am I in a straight line? Am I doing anything stupid? So that was like kind of like the first test, you know. And so he saw that I was doing okay. We were turning on the main road. First off, I got out of the parking lot, and I was following him. We turned on the main road. And so he took me to the spot where all these pipes were. And it takes forever because the speed limit on the side is 10 kilometers an hour, 6 miles per hour. And they warned us. They said, don't speed or you will be, you know, screamed at. And so I'm driving, okay, but no, most people, of course, you know, like 10, 11, 12, 13 clicks, but, you know, you don't want to do 20 kilometers an hour. and that guy was there, so they helped me with a couple of first loads, basically, because it's hard to see, you know, first time it's pretty big machine. It's hard to see the forks, you know. It's hard to see, like, when I parked, right? When I parked, you saw I showed it in the video. Like, from the cab, I look at the forks, 100% impression that they're parallel to the ground. I get out, they're like this, you know, and that's what was causing trouble. So these guys helped me. They were, you know, pointing, okay, this way from the ground when I picked up a couple of first bundles, and then one guy helped me to unload because they were stuck. I'm trying to unload them on the other end, and he says, okay, this, you know. And after that, they left me alone, and I did probably 3 or 4 by myself. Started getting better. The steering became easier, so I probably did. And when I talked to them, I said the agency said today it's 7:30 to 6, and tomorrow it's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And the big supervisor of the whole site, when we were inside that office, he says, no, it's probably gonna be more like 7:30 to 4:30. I said, perfect. That fits me. I don't need all this money, you know. Like, well, I said, you know, because 12 hours, you know, I was a bit concerned, you know. 12-hour day from 6 to 6. Like 7:30 to 4:30, of course, it's less money, but, you know, it's okay. So I'm getting experience. So even today, imagine, today, I already put in, so let's say 1 o'clock, like maybe 12:30 to 4:30. So I already have 4 hours on the big loader. And so they told me at 4:30, so 4:25, I drove slowly back, found that parking spot where it was parked originally. And there's a key, like this thing uses a key. So what do I do with the key, right? So I remember that I have the phone numbers of all these supervisors, right? So that first guy, like the important guy, I think the second supervisor who came to see us, the guy who agreed to let me use the wheel loader. I texted him, I said, hey, I just parked the big loader. You want me to leave the key here, or like what do I do with it? Sometimes they have a special room where you bring the keys, right? And then if you don't bring the keys, they start screaming at you. And within like 1 minute, I get a reply. He says, no, please leave the key in there. And I said, okay, thanks. I'll be back at 7:30 tomorrow. And he says, sounds good. And I put a question mark, you know. I said, I'll be back at 7:30 tomorrow. And he says, sounds good. Okay. So I grabbed my lunchbox. By the way, everybody likes my lunchbox because I use my shotgun shell ammo box. And everybody's like, is that your lunchbox? I said, yep. And I show them on the front, it says Challenger 00 buckshot, you know. Everybody liked it. But yeah, guys were cool, and actually, yeah, I met quite a few guys. I know they were, you know, saying lots of interesting stories about construction. So it turns out there's like some Korea guys that just follow pipelines. Because pipelines, you can, you know, like if you have experience, it's like $50 an hour, you know. And of course, this is not a pipeline. This is a solar farm. So they're building those, you know, mirrors, right? So it's going to be a generating station. And so yeah, it was pretty cool. And so I saw those guys that I spent the morning with. So I saw one on the skid steer, the other one on the dozer. I did not see the excavator guy. And skid steers were doing the same thing. They were picking up these pipes, except, you know, they could take maybe like 6-8 of them. Like my machine, I could take, like, if they are stacked properly and they don't fall apart, I could take like 20 of them, you know. Like this machine is way bigger, but skid steer machines were quicker. Like this one. Well, it's still 10 kilometers an hour, but it just, I can take much more stuff in one go, But anyway, so it was very, eye-opening and entertaining at the same time, and I got promoted to the wheel loader on the first day. So basically, like they say, 50% of success in life is just showing up. And in my case, I was not shy, and I asked the question. Like, if I wouldn't have said anything, they would put me on a skid steer, right? But I said, do you have any other machines that, we can operate? Like, I'm willing to learn, all the machines, like whatever you need, and I'm certified on a wheel loader. And right away they became interested, right? So since that guy got fired for drugs, right? See, so basically when you ask, the door will open. But if you don't ask, nothing will happen, so you have to be a bit persistent, right? And why I did ask is because that's what kind of like my goal was, my dream. I wanted to find a job on a wheel loader, but I couldn't get anything because everybody was asking for too much experience. And then I got this temp agency for a skid steer, and I guess I got lucky. So the big test will be tomorrow when I show up there, and the supervisor, would say, "Oh, Sergei, I think we'll probably put you on a skid steer." If they think I screwed up something, or they didn't like how I operated or something, right? So they will not let me use it again. And so tomorrow will be a good test. But I think I did okay. I didn't. At one point, I picked up a huge bundle of these pipes, and they are like moving, right? So when you pick them up, it's actually so difficult, because when you start picking them up, they move and they fall, and so I managed to pick up like a huge bundle, but the end were very wide, and I was able to get into that kind of like a driveway to the field where you drop them, but there's like spikes in there, like they mark the entrance, and usually all these bundles you put inside there, right? But I see that I'm getting very close on each side. I'm gonna hit it with these pipes, So I parked the machine, got out, and sure enough, it was like this over. So if I had kept going, I would hit those spikes, And so I went. There was a supervisor guy in a golf cart. I went over there. I said, "I'm sorry, like my bundle is too wide, so what do I do?" And he said, "Oh, just drop it in front." Cool. So I backed the machine a little bit, dropped it, and by that time it was like 420. And I talked to another guy. He says there's no bundles left of that particular model. So basically there was nothing else for me to do. And there's no supervisor, nobody's telling me what to do, so I just drove, parked it, and that's when I sent a message to the supervisor. Said, "What do you want me to do with the key?" He says, "Leave it." "Okay, I'll be back 7:30. "Okay, cool." And so and then I sent an email to this agency, like a reminder, because I need log in. They're using a third-party provider for payments, and I saw they send me a kind of like invitation email where you create your username and password, and basically you're supposed to go there at least once a week and log in your hours, and this way they will know how much to pay you. And so this week, of course, I started Wednesday, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, so only 3 days. I'll be paid next Friday for these 3 days. And I booked a hotel for 2 nights, so Wednesday to Thursday, and then Thursday to Friday. And so Friday after work, I'm just going to drive 125 kilometers back home. And I talked to other guys. That younger guy, 28 years old, skid steer operator, he's from Red Deer. And he said it was like 135 kilometers for him. but he's not going to a hotel. He's just going to drive every day, 135 clicks in the morning, 135 clicks at night. And that's just too much, you know, like after a day of work, and then you have to spend 2 hours on the road again. But also I don't want to put so many kilometers on my Jeep, you know, because for me it's 115. So if I do this 250 clicks every day, so 5 days, that's 1,000 kilometers. So 4 weeks, that's 4,000 kilometers, right? So 3 months, that's extra 12,000. I don't want to do that. So instead I'll be doing this. I'll be going like next Monday, I'll book a hotel Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Just 4 nights. 4 nights. It's not that expensive. And so Monday I'll be coming from home, and Friday after work I'll be driving home. So this is just 2 trips a week. Oh, and one cool thing is the agency told us the length of the contract is 3 months. And we were talking about this, and these more experienced guys, when we were sitting at the lunchroom, they said, oh man, that never happens. He says they always say, okay, we're gonna finish it in 3 months. And he says this particular site they'll be here next year as well. And actually, when the supervisor showed up, I asked him, I said, when do you think you're gonna finish this? And he says, oh, we'll be here next year. So there's a lot of work there, you know. So especially if it's 7:30 to 4:30, I really like that better, because that leaves me time, you know, in case I have to do some freight. Actually, today somebody called me twice. I couldn't answer because I was operating the machine, so I just let it go into voicemail. But yeah, it was a very interesting day. And by the way, these guys that other experienced guys that were from the same agency as me, they said this always happens on day one. It's always like this. Basically, you sit there for 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, and then eventually somebody shows up and tells you what to do. But so tomorrow should be better. Tomorrow should be more productive, right? But today, yeah, you see, we were assigned the machines, right? We were assigned the roles, like the dozer guy, the skid steer guy, the excavator, and the wheel loader guy. So we got our machines. So unless they bust us down tomorrow to skid steer again, I'm guessing I'll be operating the huge Caterpillar 966 again. So that's exactly what I was looking for, you know, get experience in the real world in construction with this machine. So I hope they give me, like, they let me use like a bucket and load some trucks. I'm really good with that one. I'm not very good with forks, you know, because I played with those tires, if you remember the training school, but forks are not easy because it's hard to see, you know. But still, it was a lot of fun. I feel a bit tired, but super happy that, you know, I'll be operating a wheel loader instead of a skid steer. Thanks for watching.